I have tried to film this video 4 times. I accidentally deleted one of them. I'm about to start crying. This is gonna be the bread and butter of the Paul is dead conspiracy theory. It's one of the coolest, theories in rock and roll history, or maybe the world. And I'm also gonna try to make this video quick on account of I'm sleepy and want to go to bed. Alright, this video is gonna happen in 4 parts. The history, the story, the proof, and what the band has to say about it. So part 1, the history. The whole thing started in 1966 when a man got in a car accident and was decapitated. He was driving a black Mini Cooper and people thought that that was Paul McCartney's car. So the public just, automatically assumed it was Paul McCartney. He started calling management. Management called Paul and Paul answered and was like, "Nah fam, I'm good." Kind of laid to rest. It was mentioned in the Beatles' 42nd edition of Beatlebook Monthly, which is a book about the Beatles that was released monthly. Basically they just said, people he's alive stop talking about it. They stopped talking about it until 1969 when an undisclosed group of college students started talking about the theory again and how weird it was that that happened, and looked into the albums and the music and saw that there were maybe some more clues alluding to this whole theory. One of the college students called a Detroit DJ called Russ Gibb, who they were just like, "Hey, play some of this stuff on your show. It'd be really interesting. I think people need to hear it." And people certainly did. One of those people's name was Fred Labor. He was already slated to review Abbey Road, and so instead of doing this like a normal track by track, here's what I think about the songs, he went track by track and on the album cover and everything just to see if there was any proof to Paul is dead in this album. He found a lot. He wrote an article about it, published it in a newspaper, and it caught on like wildfire. Beatles manager was getting 3,000 calls a day asking if Paul was okay, and when they wanted a statement from Paul, he refused to comment. He refused to comment. If somebody asked me, "Nayara, are you alive?" I would say, "Yeah, probably." He refused to comment. So, people couldn't choose a side because there was no evident truth in this, So news places took off with the story and bada bing bada boom, Paul is dead. So that's like the history of it. Part 2. The story. Basically everyone agrees on one central story. Here's how it goes. 1966. Beatles were arguing about something while they were recording, and Paul drove off all in a tizzy and crashed his black Mini Cooper on some icy, rainy road and got decapitated. R.I.P. So the Beatles were at the height of their fame. The police were scared that there would be riots and mass suicides and that their families could die because all their addresses were made public. So they decided to hold a Paul McCartney lookalike contest, and the winner was one a William Shears Campbell, but all his friends called him Billy Shears. He was giving acting lessons and singing lessons and music lessons and facial reconstruction surgery. He needed to look and smell and fucking fart like Paul McCartney. He needed to be able to convince people that he was Paul McCartney. So after a bit of that, the Beatles, racked with guilt, started leaving clues to the true fans about Paul's death because they were lonely and under contract not to talk about it. And here's where we get into part 3. You don't have to put on the red light. Part 3. The proof. Is it in the pudding? No. It's in this video. So, after, after they replaced Paul, they were obviously racked with guilt. That was their best friend, and he died, and they kept the band going without him. So they started leaving clues, like I said when I was sitting over there. This all started in May. I have notes. I did research. In May of 1967, when Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band was released. It's such a good album, such a good movie. Peter Frampton and the Bee Gees could fucking get it, and that's the gospel truth. So, cover of this album, They're at a funeral. They're all pallbearers, which is funny because it's like pallbearers. Obviously, a Beatle has died based on the flower arrangement. There's a left-handed bass that Paul used to play at the very bottom in another flower arrangement. And Paul is the only one holding a black instrument while they're all holding brass instruments. One of them is probably a tuba. That's the only one I can name. On the back of this album, we see that Paul is the only one not facing us, which is fucking spooky, boys. And George is pointing at Wednesday morning at 5 o'clock because a lot of people think Paul died at Wednesday morning at 5 o'clock, but I don't think it's possible for us to get it down that on point for when he died. In November of 1967, which is like freaking holy hell, they released 2 albums within less than May, June, July, August, September, October, November. Within 6 months. That's not even a healthy baby. But within 6 months, they released Magical Mystery Tour. I don't really see a whole lot in this. On the cover, he's wearing black, and he's in like a crucifixion pose. But he wasn't crucified. The spookiest thing about the Magical Mystery Tour is in the video of Your Mother Should Know, Paul is wearing a black carnation, while the good old boys aren't. And the producers or whatever were like, yo, it's just because we ran out of red carnations. There was only a black one left over. Which, like, you can't fucking get black carnations. You have to make them. Like, you have to dye them or something. Spooky. I don't know. Why did he have that? On to September of 1969. Abbey Road was released. What an exciting album. On the cover of this one, think of it as another sort of funeral scene. Jesus is at the front, as he is at every funeral. You got some guy going to it, that's Ringo, in a suit. You got the dead man himself. He's holding something in his right hand when he's left-handed. His other foot is forward, and he's wearing no shoes, which is weird because you'd be buried with shoes. And George, he's a gravedigger. Is that the technical term? He's a gravedigger. On the background of this, you can see a Beetle. Or what? A Volkswagen Bug, not a Beetle. The Beetles are in the foreground. It has a license plate that says LMW 281F. You can read that as LMW 28F because Paul McCartney would have been 28 if he was alive in the year 1969. A lot of people think the LMW stands for Lyndon McCartney wept or weeps, but I think that is a bit of a stretch. And besides that, there are a lot of like auditory clues on all these albums. Again, I think they're a lot of hokey. I didn't really feel like editing in the auditory clues in this video. That's why I'm not talking about them, but I will leave links below to better videos than this one and longer videos than this one that go more in depth, and then you can hear them. Okay, love you. Bye. So now we're on to what the band has to say about the whole thing. Obviously, they vehemently, is there a T? Hey Google, what does vehemently mean?
On the website vocabulary.com, they say, when you do something vehemently, you do it with energy and passion. If you vehemently oppose your brother's plan for the family vacation, then you're really, really against it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Vehemently. Anyway, they denied it. Ringo said that it was like the DJs mixing the auditory clues, you know, it wasn't them. John poked fun at it in one of his songs, don't remember which. I'll put it here if I remember. George said Hare Krishna, and Paul, actually, here's a terrifying story. So a bunch of photographers from Life magazine visited him on his farm and took incriminating pictures of him, and they were like, hey, give us an interview. And he was like, no. And they were like, but we have incriminating pictures of you. And he was like, that's terrible and against the law, but give me those pictures and I'll give you an interview. So he did, and he was on the cover with his family looking all cute. Love that. And he actually has an album out called Paul is Live, which the whole cover is a spoof because his other leg's forward, there's something in his left hand. He's wearing shoes, and in the background there's a beetle. I can't say the word beetle. There's a bug that says like 52 or 51 is, because he is 52 or 1 because he is alive. But yeah, the band didn't really enjoy that theory as much as I have. Closing thoughts, I guess. My opinion on the theory as a whole is that it was one of the best publicity stunts known to man. I don't think it's true. Please don't judge me. I don't know, I just think since you had to buy all the records to look at the front of the albums, and you had to listen to them backwards, you'd wear down your records, so you'd have to buy more. I just think it was fucking really well planned publicity stunt. Written by somebody much smarter than I. I commend them. But that pretty much does it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned a little bit. Again, this was just bread and butter. So again, I'm going to link better videos down below. Most of the sources that I actually used to research this video, I will link below. Yeah, thank you for watching. I don't know how to end videos. If I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Was this whole thing just a dramatic reading of the Paul is Dead Wikipedia page? You'll never know.